Welcome, everybody, to another live recording of the Business Travel 360 Linking the Travel Industry podcast, where we discuss travel industry news you are talking about on LinkedIn. My name is Rian, and I'm one of your hosts today. I'm a co-founder at Agentivity. And as usual, I'm joined by Ash and Anne to help me discuss a list of stories with you. Over to you, Anne.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Anne. I'm an independent consultant with LeapShift, and I'm happy to help you with anything you need to figure out with distribution, NDC, order, retailing. Over to you, Ash.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ash, and I'm the host of a weekly business travel podcast called What's Up in Business Travel, where we give you the important updates in under 15 minutes. Additionally, I'm the Vice President of Client Success at Traxo, and this is Linking the Travel Industry.
So for those new to the event, welcome. And for those regulars, welcome back. We have a lot of stories to talk through today, so I'll be very brief when I say we just go through the list of stories from last week very quickly with no real prep at all and no agenda. We just go through them, but we do like to hear your comments. So if you have a comment on any of the stories we discussed today, please do share that comment and we'll get it on screen as well. We're just going to start with the big news from Airbus about a recall. It's affecting about 6,000 aircraft, many of them simply have to do a software update, which seems to be going well for many airlines. Some have to be physically inspected and the hardware changed as well. So there is an anticipation that there is a bit of disruption coming up for certain airlines. There are some airlines who use these type of aircraft exclusively. One thing that stood out for me as I was reading some of the posts over the weekend is how well organized this patch up has been done and how so many airlines have just been proactively working on this and just getting things done. You know, that's just an observation. And did you get to the same sort of conclusion?
Absolutely. And I was impressed with American Airlines. They have 340 of these and they estimated 2 hours per plane, right? They were supposedly done over the weekend. Whereas others, like you say, they have a larger share.
Is that what you were doing this Thanksgiving, Ash? You were there doing software updates for Americans?
That's right. We're very efficient over here. This is really disturbing to me, Anne and Rian, because, here's the situation where something is so urgent and so important that needs to be done immediately. Obviously, it's not something that they can just ignore for a while, but yet we had no inkling of anything like this that was going to happen. I think there is a major issue that's still not really clear to us, and that's going to come out in the days ahead. I hate to say this, but could Airbus be the Boeing of 2026? Let's see.
I don't understand the negativity there because they've identified an issue. They didn't keep it quiet. They acted upon it and the fix is applied. What's the concern?
Well, the concern is that why did this happen in the first place? Air safety cannot be something that's a small issue. They have to take it seriously. This is not something to be taken lightly. 6,000 planes impacted. This is not a small number. Will there be some airlines that kind of cut corners? Possibly, because they are going to let the airlines handle it.
Ah, I see what you mean. Fair enough. Another developing situation we are seeing is around the airspace around Venezuela. So President Trump has said people should consider that airspace closed. Linked to the story is also the news about Venezuela banning 6 major airlines revoking their license for flying into Venezuela after they adhere to that warning and stopped flying. Then the Venezuelans said, well, in that case, you're banned. So it is really not a great situation. Of course, the developing story, quite concerning, but it's interesting to see the reaction there from Venezuela. Ash, I want to come to you first on this one. What are your take on both these stories, right? They are obviously related.
Being banned is probably a good thing for many of these airlines, considering the seriousness of the situation in that area. I would take it as a positive that at least now they don't have to be forced to cancel. They're just banned from flying, and that solves the issue completely.
Understanding correctly, those airlines were not flying there anyway. They decided to stop flying there, and it angered the Venezuelan government, so they banned it. And so your comments?
Well, it's interesting with those who they didn't revoke the licenses for, like Europa, like Copa. It was interesting with those 6. This is very unprecedented.
Aer Lingus, who's seeking consultation on closing its Manchester base. They're considering it. They haven't announced it. They are just considering it. It's a base where there's around 200 jobs for Aer Lingus, so those jobs are at risk. and they've apparently established that base there in 2021. There's a second story coming up this week about somebody also seeking consultation on something. Not great to see that they are considering this, right, Anne? I mean, it's a bit of a surprise to me. I would have thought it did quite well for them, but clearly not.
It's interesting. When you read between the lines, they seem to have issues with pay and strikes. It's also very interesting with the UK, isn't it? And aviation in general. We've seen regional airlines collapsing, etc.
Yeah.
There seems to be a sort of withdrawal, for lack of a better word.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Imagine booking a flight, reserving a hotel, and filing your expense report, all during your favorite coffee break at your desk. That's what Italite makes possible, a modern, all-in-one platform for business travel and expenses. Why choose Italite? Because we combine smart technology with effortless workflows, helping companies save money while making travel simpler and faster for employees. Italite, the smarter way to travel for work. Discover more at italite.com.
Not a healthy environment. Positive news, though, out of the UK, which is rare these days, is the announcement of the UK government's decision to freeze rail fares for next year. And I saw this in a post by Clive from the BTA. And of course, the BTA welcomes this decision big time. Ash, was it a surprise to you to hear that the government can freeze rail fares?
It's very, very impressive, to say the least. Anytime you can do that, that's pretty cool. But, Clive also mentions in his article that rail remains the most underused form of transportation.
Yes.
So it's very curious to me how you can have the economics playing out where it helps travelers, but travelers don't want to use it. That's quite fascinating. Maybe it's not as desirable as one might have thought.
Well, not the way you're marketing it, Ash. So, nobody's going to go on the train with Ash as the head of marketing. But, and this still is good news, though, for rail commuters, right?
Well, I mean, isn't British Rail the highest priced in Europe? The joke is that it's cheaper to fly via Palma and Ryanair. There was also a very interesting comment on that post talking about the unreliability of rail, of having morning rail services cancelled.
We're not doing UK Rail any favours yet.
No, we're not.
You remember we had a story a few weeks ago, maybe it was a couple months ago, Rian, where there was a person who posted that it cost him like $500 to go on rail and only like $50 to fly. Remember that story?
Yes.
That's a total example of what Clive is saying.
Yeah, both of those are against your holy grail, Ash, because you don't want cheap flights if you don't like rails.
Yeah, I think there's a balance there somewhere.
Unfortunately, more bad news about airlines collapsing and not operating anymore. So 2 last week. And I mean, guys, we've been having an airline per week now for the last 3 weeks, and then 2 in a row. So Latvia's SmartLynx airline have ceased operations. There is a bit of a story behind that. I didn't know this, but they were owned by parent company Avia Solutions. These also affects the Estonian and Maltese carriers who also fly under this brand, SmartLynx. So they are also shutting down. And this parent company Airbus Solutions also has a Thai and an Australian one, but they will be rebranded in the hope that they continue. So that's quite a massive impact. It's not just the one instance. It's quite a few airlines. And then the other one is out of North America with Anchorage-based New Pacific Airlines also folding. So really sad times, right? And for us to be talking about pretty much an airline fleet now.
The Latvian one really surprises me because that is the leasing company, right? And I would have thought that the demand would be there. I really wonder about that one. I can't figure it out. What's the story behind the story for this one? Because it should be profitable. I think we really have to sort of come up with some sort of new model for regional travel. We know we need to protect it.
So I just wanted the audience to say thank you so much for giving us your time on a Monday. Our purpose here ultimately is to allow you to create more connections on LinkedIn. And so if you don't mind, why don't you just tell us where you are listening from? Just give us a shout on the comments and we'll bring that comment on screen, which will then display your name and maybe you'll make a few more connections as a result. But we do appreciate you taking part and thank you for giving us your time. And obviously telling us where you're listening from. We do love getting those comments. Okay, so we have to continue because we have quite a few more stories. Very interesting story from Ryanair about them shutting down their Prime membership thing, which they started very recently. As it turns out, it was costing them more than they made from it. So, and this is weird. I mean, it's good for Ryanair to admit they made a mistake and they just stop it, right? That's the good decision. But it's weird to hear a not successful story out of the Ryanair camp, right?
Surprising. Couldn't they project this, or couldn't they run a few experiments on looking at what's going to be the impact, etc.? It doesn't look like it came from Ryanair, does it? I mean, I'm really surprised that they would fail at something like this.
But yeah, it does sound like it's a bit the back of a napkin type. Let's do this and let's try it, right? It wasn't well thought out.
Which is very weird.
How do you think they could have succeeded?
Well, they could have come up with a better name, for one. Something like maybe High Five might have been a good one. I think the name really sucks, which is why probably only 20% of people of their expected numbers signed up. So it's a pretty low number. Yeah. The other part about this is that it did generate over 4 million euros in subscription fees, according to the article. Yep. That's a good thing. And I think that this could have been a little bit of a cash flow, cash grab kind of a situation. You know, you have 55,000 people who are probably not very happy versus if you had 250,000 people. But then again, who's ever happy by flying Ryanair anyway?
I'm a very happy customer.
I'm a reluctant customer. Got some locations there. Mark, as always, thank you very much. Listening in Ahmed from Frankfurt and Gary from Boston. Such a nice global audience once again. Thank you for letting us know where you're listening from. We appreciate that. Told you there's a story coming up about another business seeking some advice, and this time it's the surprising news for me about American Express Global Business Travel is exploring the possibility of a sale, is pretty much how they've put it. So yeah, they obviously got somebody in there to do some analysis of this for them to see what can happen here. Fascinating development for me. Ash, what did you make of it?
Fascinating for me too. Just when you thought that they have acquired all the pieces and put together their castle, now they're putting the castle up for sale. This could be an attempt to raise stock prices because they see Navan stock price. The Navan stock price did drop, but it's still double of Amex GBT's. And the stock price did go up because of this.
For me, this is not the right time. Of course, they need to push through and deliver on that CWT thing. So maybe there is that story behind the story. Varishka from Localist listening in as well. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Hope you're enjoying this. This was a very fascinating story. I saw this on a post by Dennis Schall from Skift. He posted about this as an exclusive, this news that Capital One is wanting to acquire the software that Hopper is using to power Capital One Travel, and then they want to expand the travel offering, and they're already advertising for more staff in this space. And then there was some interesting follow-up posts. I don't know if Martin is in the audience today. He did a post about this to say this is not really a story at all, and it's not the scoop that Skift thought it was, which was also bizarre in itself. I found the story also quite strange. Very, very weird story. And I'm sure there's a few questions, right?
Well, I have so many questions. I mean, what does that mean, acquiring the travel software? What's going to be left of Hopper?
Just to be clear, Capital One is looking to acquire the software that Hopper uses to power Capital One.
Yes.
So it's not like they're giving the Hopper software. It's more like they're using this piece of software specifically for Capital One.
Well, what piece?
Probably the engine that they've created. But this makes sense for Capital One, by the way, to bring it in-house and get the middleman out of the way, which is Hopper.
And it does sound to me like there's been a bit of contractual negligence here in the part of Hopper to not protect that. We've covered this before, the ongoing news about CTM, Corporate Travel Management, and their accounting errors that they have been revealing. Major accounting errors that they've now had audited by KPMG comes to a staggering £77.6 million, and they are actually going to repay a small number of UK-based customers for fees and errors and fees, charges, etc. And as a result of all of this, the managing director in the UK is going to step down. Fascinating to see that the scale of that incorrect accounting is that big. Either of you have any comments on that?
Actually, I'm very fascinated by this story. So now KPMG has found that there's another £45 million in revenue. So what is this revenue? So the only thing that comes to mind is that you've taken credits that are owed to a customer and applied them towards your revenue as a profit instead of returning it back to the customer. This is such a huge story, but yet it's not very uncommon. A lot of agencies take a lot of liberties when it comes to this topic. Qantas did something similar like this as well. Qantas sold fares on flights that were never real.
And then my other extra story that stood out for me, I love this one. I saw this in a post by Felix Spielman, and he talks about that he travels with a lot of air tags to track his baggage. He's got a capacity on his account. He can only reach this and get to a certain limit. This is an initiative between Delta Airlines and Apple where they've teamed up, and Delta is making use of AirTag location data, but they do so directly from within their own baggage system. And so they will just use that information and share that with their customers and also use it themselves to be more efficient tracking your baggage. And I absolutely love this. I think this is phenomenal from Delta to be doing this.
So does the user have to allow Delta to see this information, or is this automatic? And the reason why I ask this question is because in all the previous conversations we've ever had about Apple Tag, there's always this thing where the airline says, well, if you tell us the location of your bag, sending us the link for your Apple, we can find the bag for you. Well, so can the traveler.
Let me tell you what's the difference here, the way I understand it. So Delta is not just telling you where your bag is, they're actually using this data to be better at what they do in getting the bag to you, right? They're not just saying, we can see the bag as well, but they are planning around it and they're using their systems to be more efficient based on the location of the bags. That's my understanding.
The bag is in the closet. You've locked the door. Go to the closet, open the door, and get the bag out and give it to the traveler. Where is the amazingness in all of that? What the traveler is doing the airline's job of locating the bag for the airline and then just simply telling the airline it's behind the carousel where you've locked the door and that's where the bag is located.
I should have asked Felix to join us to tell us why he's so excited about this.
I just find this whole AirTag bag thing to be so funny because airlines are putting the effort of who's going to find the bag back on the traveler. So the traveler's given the bag, airline's lost the bag, then the airline says, oh, give me the AirTag so I can find your bag for you.
I'm regretting mentioning the story already. And I know you, if you can recover from your laughing fit there, I know you had an extra story that you wanted to share with us and you told me about it before, and so I did bring it up, but this is about eDreams.
Yeah, kind of interesting because, it ties in with the subscription failure of Ryanair, right? Because it clearly is Barclays. They have downgraded eDreams from 1150 down to 425. That's pretty massive. It's actually also connected to not having access to Ryanair content. That financial downgrade was significant.
How they talk about this in the financial terms. They say they downgraded from equal weight to overweight. How rude. Absolutely.
That is a substantial downgrade for eDreams.
Ash, do you have any extra stories?
A low-cost airline in Russia has conducted the industry's first live test of a humanoid robot in flight. There's a robot, he's on the plane, and he's conducting flight attendant activities within the aircraft. So I thought this was really, really cool.
Activities off flight.
Directing people to their seat. They're not conducting any human-type activity, so they're very careful to say that the human flight attendants are still responsible for safety-critical information and things like that.
Yes.
But it was doing all the other things. So this is the first time, Rian, that you see a robot on a plane serving and greeting customers and taking over some of those responsibilities. I thought that was pretty cool.
Was it human looking or was it more robot looking?
Very, very robot looking.
Given some of the stuff I sometimes encounter on flights, honestly, I would probably rather talk to a robot.
I'm telling you, that's going to be the next wave.
I'm probably going to get in big trouble for saying that. Well, guys, we're just over the time, but we had so many stories. Well done on all of us for getting through those so quickly. Thank you so much for those attending and giving us your time. We do this weekly, as Ash will remind you at the end. And for those commenting as well, thank you so much for doing that. Over to you, Anne.
Thanks, everyone. And it's lovely to see you sharing your location. Over to Ash.
Thank you all for joining today's live recording of Linking the Travel Industry. We record this podcast live every week on Monday, and we ask that you share this event with others that you know. Chances are high that if you enjoyed today's session, those you know will as well. If you ever miss a show because of time zone availability, the podcast is available on businesstravel360.com. This is Linking the Travel Industry, signing off.